kind of see it as levels of support, right? Because agencies, departments, you're different sizes. Some are very small, some are very large, some don't have any resources at all, some have a lot of resources to put towards this. So I kind of see there's like these varying levels. You can do something somewhere, but you have to consider your own department and what is going to work for you, right? But you could start somewhere. So there's kind of this bottom level that I'll go over where these are some common experiences that I hear from departments, and this is what they're doing. And, they're trying some things out. There's this middle level, right? Education and communication, which gets much harder. And then I see this, I have spouses peer support at the top because this is a much harder thing to tackle, and it takes, I think, a lot more effort and thought around it. It's not impossible. People are doing it. I think it just takes a lot more resources and effort. There are a lot of barriers that we'll talk about along the way that all of you know and have questions about because you submitted them to me, and you're right on. There are barriers that we talk about with departments all the time. So we got to think creatively. So I'll kind of talk about that along the way. So starting with that bottom level, this welcome introduction into the department, right? A common, if departments are supporting their families in some way, most oftentimes I hear about them hosting or inviting the family in during that academy. Usually somewhere in the academy they have like a family night, some sort of introduction. Not everyone's doing this, but I do hear a number of departments, experimenting with this. They handle it in different ways. Some of them will hand out, resources. I've heard of others who gather, contact information from families. It's nice. My thought is, as a family member, knowing now that I've been in the life for quite some time now, it's going to impact literally everything we do almost every day. It's nice to have an introduction and get some buy-in from the spouse in the beginning. It would be nice as a spouse to be like, hi, who are you? Oh, you're welcoming me in. You're telling me I'm important and we want to support you. Maybe you're giving me some resource information on like who's our EAP, what's, where can I reach out? What do we have available to us? It's kind of nice to do that warm welcome, right? And to have them come in. And I feel like the goal here is really like, we'd like to work together, right? Like, let's work together here. You're part of our family now because it really is a family ultimately. And what you really want is them to feel not alone in this because they're in the middle of an academy. They're about to go through probation. You all know what kind of stressors that places on a family at home. It's nice if they understand that they're not the only ones going through this, right? There's a lot of people there. Now, some of the challenges that come along with this are the fact that you're recruiting very young, usually police officers. Oftentimes they're coming in and they still live with their parents, or they're not married, they're not in a significant relationship of any sort. And so if this is the only thing you're doing, you might be missing maybe 3 years later or 5 years later, they get married. And that's the person who really needs the information, but you've just given it all to their parents or no one because they didn't have anyone there. So something to consider if this is what you do, and there's no follow-up to it. It's something to think about. When is that family or that spouse, that new spouse, getting that information? Because it is important information for them to have. The other thing you can utilize in this is connection. I will talk a lot about connecting spouses. Now, sometimes departments are weary of this, right? And they're going, well, I don't know if that's helpful. Or sometimes the officer is weary of this. Like, I don't know if I want them connected to every, other family, not knowing why. Being like, okay, how we reduce people's stress in general, as a therapist, how you reduce someone's emotional stress is you help them feel understood and less alone. It's really hard to do that with a family without connecting them to other families who are going through the same thing. When they can suddenly talk to other people who get it, who understand it, they feel less alone and understood, and it relieves some sense of stress. But if they're isolated, which is oftentimes the case for law enforcement families that I see, when they are isolated from any other law enforcement family and isolated from the department's not talking to them at all, they seem to be in greater stress because nobody gets it and I'm living this life alone. So I advocate for connecting families. I think that it can be helpful to partner with spouses who you trust, right? You really know have are positive and they're doing a great job and they're navigating the life and they want to bring on other spouses, right? These like veteran spouses that can kind of pair with them and say, hey, you can have my number if you ever have any, you know, challenges or troubles, like reach out to me, right? So, or people in their community, because oftentimes law enforcement families are kind of scattered.